Good morning, Reflectors.
Good morning.
That's right, it's Reflection Friday.
I couldn't wait till today because I have something I want to share and I didn't want to forget.
That happens so much where we're chomping at the bit and we're excited to make the next episode that we just can't wait. And now it's Reflection Friday and we're recording Friday, March 20th. I didn't even get the chance to get that out of my mouth.
Sorry about that.
And you're already starting to talk. So, yes, it's Friday, Reflection Friday. And should I just turn it over to you?
Well, okay. Yes, please do. So, yesterday when we were talking about we have this trauma in childhood and then throughout adulthood until we understand what we're doing and we process the trauma, which is very important, I want to address that today. That trigger response is unconscious. And then we just fawn and we
fawn.
Okay, there is a concept in Terry Cole's book that we all need to know. It's on page 67, and it's called Repeating Relationship Realities. That's where we keep doing the same thing, even if it's not working. Let's just hear what she says on this page. It can be confounding and more than a little depressing to find yourself replaying the same unsatisfying interactions that we have had in life, leading to the same undesirable outcomes. This doesn't work out, then we do the same. The next relationship doesn't work out. The same thing doesn't work out. And it is the way we are wired. Humans seek comfort in the familiar. They can even feel compelled to repeat dramatic or, according to Freud, traumatic experiences. I wanted to reflect on that because when you're starting to process how this high-functioning codependency originated with you, you need to be working with your therapist. That involves going back to your childhood and understanding where your coping strategies originated. You need a trained therapist to help you do that. When you do that, then you're starting to live life differently, but it can feel so odd. And the repeating relationship realities can almost feel comforting. So when I became aware that I was high-functioning codependent through Terry Cole's work, Terry Cole helped heal my life. I'm still healing, but this was a big part of my healing. When I realized that I was a high-functioning codependent, learning to show up as my authentic self without the high-functioning codependency felt uncomfortable, odd. And in this section here, there is a discussion about Freud's idea that he kind of coined as repetition compulsion, where we just keep doing the same thing. So when you break that habit, because it's unconscious, right? But so when you start breaking that habit, it can feel completely unsettling because you almost don't know who you are. And you don't know how you're to show up in a situation. And I wanted to call this out now before we get too far in the book. Because number one, if you're relating to this, you do need a therapist to help you. Because you need to process that trauma. And you're working on processing it. Then what happens is you're going to say, I don't need that anymore. But then Terry Cole also, she hasn't gotten to it in this book yet. It's called that in between. And we don't even know what to do because we know high functioning codependency doesn't work. So then what does? She has a beautiful section on page 72, and it's called Integrating the Past. I'll read a little bit. Regardless of what your blueprint, your high functioning codependency blueprint looks like, and what your blueprint revealed about your childhood experiences, the foundation for your healing is in integrating what happened. You need to honor these experiences, memories, and feelings with generous doses of self-acceptance and self-kindness. So I don't know if you remember, I have so much to say today, it's hard to even take a breath. Remember when I said that I could just feel my face getting red when I think about how I showed up as a high-functioning codependent?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in this chapter, she talks about shame and guilt. And we've talked about that a lot in the podcast. So I'm not sure we want to use our time discussing that. But I do want us to know that if we're feeling shame, remember, shame is I'm bad. Guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I am bad.
Of course, there's real guilt where you did do something bad, and then there's false guilt where you're thinking you're bad because you didn't live up to someone else's expectations.
So when you're processing this with your therapist and you're going back to your childhood and where this originated, so this is where coaching is different than counseling. In coaching, we don't go way back unless it's something that keeps coming up, and we look at it and we can think about, well, what coping strategy is coming up and how can we let that go? But the processing that she's talking about here for high functioning codependency, a trained therapist needs to help with that. That's more than what a coach does. And as coaches, we need to know to stay in our lane. But as you process with your therapist, bringing that self-acceptance and self-kindness into the equation, because there will be shame, but remember, you were doing the best you could with the tools and the awareness and the understanding that you had. As you make your journey through and processing through how your high-functioning codependency originated, understand that you were doing the best you could. And to bring that self-acceptance and kindness in, because as she says here in these paragraphs under the integrating the past section, you deserve to be loved and cherished for who you are. That's as true now as when you were a child. Connecting with old emotions of isolation, fear, shame, and grief may feel daunting at first, but the reality is, once you can invite these feelings into conscious awareness with great compassion for the kid in you who may have gone through some seriously hard stuff, you can begin to reparent yourself, showing yourself love, care, and the respect that you're worthy of. I couldn't wait to say all this, Ada. I want us all to know we were doing the best we could.
I appreciate that you shared all that because that's true no matter who you are. Whether you're a high functioning, codependent, or anybody else who's living life, you are doing the best you can with the tools and awareness and understanding you have at that moment. And then when we get new understanding, it can be a gut punch. Like, oh my goodness, this is what I've been doing to myself. And then also that in between, I don't even know who I should be anymore. I've spent so much time being who I thought everyone else wanted me to be, I'm not even sure who I really am.
That is so true. And giving ourselves that period of grace to just say, okay, I understand where I've been. And I know I don't want to take all this with me. It's going to take a little while for me to understand who I truly am. Remember Runaway Bride?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. So there's this great scene. I mean, I don't know how long ago Runaway Bride was, years ago, decades ago.
It was in the 90s.
Okay, Julia Roberts.
Richard Gere.
Yes. And she had this line that I pointed to so much during my journey. She said she doesn't even know how she likes her eggs because all she had done is do what other people wanted. And she didn't even know how she liked her eggs. It can feel like that when you're a high-functioning codependent. You don't even know what you like or what you want to do or what you enjoy. And those feelings of resentment and all that stuff starts brewing inside of you because the real you wants to come out. The authentic you wants to be present in life, wants to show itself. In nonviolent communication, what do we say? Everyone has the need to be seen, heard, and known. And when you're a high-functioning codependent, you don't allow yourself to be seen, heard, and known.
No, you show up as what you think everyone else wants you to be. And the thing I would want to say to that is our goal isn't then to go from playing one role or character to playing another role or character that we think is better or the more right one. It's to stop playing characters in our lives. So what you're talking about with that movie with Julia Roberts, well, I don't even know how I like my eggs because I'm trying to figure out how do other people want me to want my eggs.
Yes.
Now, it's not to come up with a better system and a better strategy and a better, okay, well, the character I should play now is someone who knows what kind of eggs that they want. Stop playing characters. Stop creating little roles for yourself. That's the goal here. To go inside and find how do I really like my eggs here? How do I really like to show up in life that isn't putting on a performance for everybody? It isn't trying to gain applause or approval or do what someone else expects of me. It's I get to live a life that's me for me. And if other people like and appreciate that person, jolly good. But if they don't, that's actually okay because I like me. I like how I show up and I know who I am.
To put it in the vernacular that we've been using on the podcast, we need to get into this space and allow ourselves to come into the space where we know what alignment feels like and we honor it and we live in alignment. That's what this is all about. It's the journey toward alignment.
Right, because codependency, it gets in the way of listening and noticing, which we talked about in January. It definitely gets in the way of alignment with self, because when we're codependent and we're high functioning and we are trying to be something for everybody, there's no actual self to align with because the self that we think we are is just what we think everyone else wants us to be.
That's why give yourself some time. If this is resonating and you are saying to yourself, this is me, and I have had trauma, find yourself a good therapist, process that trauma. It's too much to do alone. And then start learning tools for how to show up as that best version of yourself, which is the authentic version of yourself.
So our intention for today and for this weekend is, I will give myself the gift of healing from my trauma. I will give myself the gift of healing from my trauma. Even if you're not a high-functioning codependent, if you recognize that you've had trauma in your life, please give yourself that gift too. Thank you so much for joining us today and this week. Our day is better because you are part of our day. See you Monday.
See you then.